PickFu is a self-service consumer research platform that anyone can use to get fast, reliable feedback from real people. You don't need to be a market research expert or hire one to use PickFu. All you need to do is create a poll, choose your target audience, and in minutes, you're going to start getting results. Real written responses from your target audience. You can ask for feedback on just about anything related to your business, marketing material, product designs, product packaging, almost anything. The respondents submit written comments with every PickFu poll. And now you can use the coupon code NOT101, that's NOT101, for a free 15-person poll at pickfu.com, pickfu.com.
Welcome to Business Law 101, a podcast that explores the uncommon side of business, goes beyond the conventional teachings, delves into the practical, real-world strategies and insights from successful founders, entrepreneurs, industry experts that understand what drives growth and how to achieve success in an ever-changing business landscape. So join us, and let's go beyond the basics. Hi, Julie. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for joining us on Business Law 101. Let's jump right into it. Please introduce yourself and give us your 60-second business pitch.
Yeah, I'm Julie. I'm the founder of Book Launchers. We're a professional self-publishing services company helping you write, publish, and promote nonfiction books to grow your brand, to grow your business. I'm also the author of 3, soon to be 4 books. So pretty excited to chat with you today.
That sounds very exciting. What was your aha moment behind starting your business?
Yeah, I mean, it was a journey. I self-published my first book in 2013 after being rejected by a traditional publisher, Wiley. Some people might be familiar with Wiley. And it was funny because my friends got book deals. I got introduced to the publisher. I was like, yeah, I've got this great idea. And they're like, no, that's not so great. But, we've got an idea for you. And they gave me an idea and we wrote a proposal and they worked with me actually developing the proposal for 3 months. Very unusual. Like normally you get an agent, the agent shops you. So I was right in there. I assumed I was getting a book deal. But in the end, they sent me an email and said the marketing department didn't think I would sell enough books. So I can smile about it now because I think it was the greatest gift that I was ever given, or one of them anyways. My son definitely was the greatest gift. But really, I was devastated, like really, truly devastated. My ego was bruised. But I ended up going back to my original book idea that they didn't like, and I self-published it because I really believed it was going to help people. And I ended up actually taking that book to #1 on Amazon, ahead of Dan Brown, ahead of Game of Thrones. So this author that Wiley rejected, and my idea they really rejected, was able to find its market and go from there. And it wasn't a straight journey from there. It wasn't like, oh, that book did well, now I'm going to open Book Launchers. Book Launchers was 4 years later. But I really started to see lots of things in the marketplace where I was like, I would have liked a company that did that. Oh, I would have liked the company to do this. Oh, I wish there were publishing companies that didn't do this. And so I ended up dreaming up the company that I would have hired for my books. And now my company is doing my books. So it works great.
That's super fascinating. I love that story. It's like really like a sort of a journey from concept right to a business. And I think that's unique. So when you're looking at Book Launchers, what is the secret sauce that you feel makes you guys unique in this market? And I don't know how many self-publishing companies there is, but I'm assuming there's quite a few of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of companies that do bits and pieces of it, right? There's companies that will help you write the book. There's companies that will help you edit it. There's cover designers. There's marketing companies. But one of the big things that I saw and that really made me start the company was that there were very few companies that were looking at the entire process going, okay, here's the audience. Here's what success is going to look like for the book. Let's make sure that the right book is getting written to achieve that success and having marketing baked into the whole process. Because if you're not, like the editor you hire might be a great editor, but they're probably not thinking about positioning it for a particular reader so you can get speaking engagements or leads into your company. They're just thinking Chicago Manual of Style. And the cover designer is thinking beautiful design. They're not necessarily thinking, how is this going to sell in the category and what's it going to look like on the website when I'm trying to get leads? So really having a company that is thinking about that from day one and everybody on the team is positioning your book to be set up to achieve your goals, I think that's really powerful. And the secondary piece is that a lot of companies that did do even a good chunk of the process would charge you a huge upfront fee. And so I know me as a business owner, cash flow has always been, okay, let's make sure we've got steady cash flow. Let's make sure we're not, overextending ourselves in any one month. I don't want to cut a check for $36,000 or $50,000. So I wanted to set up a model that was monthly, that allowed you to build a relationship, that somebody could stay with you for as long or as short as they need. And so those were kind of the two founding things that really have driven our model and driven our company for, almost 6 years now.
That's really interesting. I like that. So you guys are data driven. So you actually do the research about the book and the author, and that's how you're building up your business. You're not just saying, okay, you want to write a book, let's do it and work you through the steps, but you're actually saying, hold on, this might not be the market or the right book. You need to change a few things. That is super interesting. Do you get a lot of pushback from the authors who say, this is exactly what I want to write, or are they receptive to the data you're bringing to them?
Yeah, I mean, some of it's data, but some of it's also positioning for the marketplace that the author's trying to reach. Like some of our authors, for example, are speakers or they want to grow a speaking business. So not necessarily looking at data, but we pitch our authors for speaking engagements. We know what people are looking for when they're booking a speaker. We know what they're paying and what they're not paying. And so then it's kind of going, okay, like your story is really powerful, but that's not going to land you on these corporation and association stages that are paying. So let's take that story and find a lens that you can use with that story that will actually put you on those stages. So it's kind of like that. And, frankly, some authors pay us a lot of money to argue with us. But, a lot of people really recognize our expertise and will work with us. And those are the ones that generally will succeed because they're in a team effort. But yes, there is pushback occasionally. Some people really like to pay people to argue, I think.
That's funny. But yeah, I can imagine. What were some of the initial roadblocks that you encountered when you were launching this business that you didn't expect to hit?
Yeah, I mean, I still hit this one, and that's margin, because this is a high touch, high service business, and we come at it from a heart perspective. Like we really care about our authors. We will go the extra mile. And what I have learned is that when you build a team that will do that, you tend to end up with scope creep and projects that are way more expensive than what you're charging your clients. So it's been a journey, and it still is, honestly. It's still something I'm constantly striving to improve, to get steady profitability, to get a steady margin. I think that's probably not that unusual for any business, really. They're always looking at the margin going, that's too small, or that's on the wrong side of the line. So that's really been it. But it is balancing the needs of the client, giving as much as we possibly can to create success, and at the same time, still being able to survive and thrive as a business.
Yeah, that's a great point, and something we don't touch too much on this podcast, but it is about margins. It really is. So that's really interesting. Now, looking a little bit at yourself, and since you started the business, you wore many hats, right? You probably did some of your own marketing, did a lot of the legwork at the beginning. What were some of the hats looking back at this, saying, I should have hired so-and-so right away instead of waiting a while and grown my business that way? Where were some of the positions you could have outsourced if you could have?
I mean, I started the business, this being my third business, I started it hiring people right off the hop that I was like, I'm not going to be the one that does that. So like, for example, we have an entire process built, and I don't know how to run the software behind that process. So I made some conscious decisions because I wanted to have a company I could scale. That said, sales and marketing is still almost completely on me. So deliverability of the product, our service, that's completely in other people's hands, which, being a real estate investor, that makes sense because I'm not an editor, I'm not a ghostwriter, I'm not a designer. So makes total sense. But yeah, still to this day, I'm doing more of the sales and marketing that I think is optimal to scale and grow a company as quickly as I'd like.
That's great. And it sort of leads into my next question, which was sales and customer acquisition. That's one of the hardest parts. How do you guys typically do this? Because are you receiving a lot of requests from your customers seeking you, or are you having to go and physically go and get them?
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, we get a lot of referrals now after 6 years. So our clients are constantly referring. Like I would say almost every day I get a referral from one of our clients, which is great. And then YouTube is something that I've been passionate about, very active on since day one. And that brings in a lot of organic. And then after 3 years of organic leads from YouTube, I started paying for leads through YouTube. And so between those two things, we get a lot of our clients coming to us and seeking information and then potentially seeking our services.
That's really interesting. So I did watch a lot of your YouTube videos, the shorts, and you're finding a great success with them and be able to go and draw customers. Do you also leverage YouTube to be sort of like your spokesperson away from your sales team to actually allow customers to understand what you are doing, who you are, and everything? Is that a focus for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I have 3 buckets of content that I create for YouTube. One is kind of feeding the YouTube algorithm, so doing that keyword research and feeding the algorithm. The other one is frequently asked questions. And that frequently asked questions bucket feeds into our client communications as well as any people that are interested in our service. And then there is the other piece that is sales driven, like purely sales driven content, which is, go get this download, or here's a topic and, halfway through I'm offering them a call to solve this problem or something like that. So those are 3 buckets. And so it's very, I shouldn't say super conscious, or there's choices and decisions made around that. And then we run ads so that you kind of go through a campaign so that you'll get some suggested videos that kind of feed you in a certain direction.
Okay, that's a great point, because I was going to ask that, what has been one of the most successful platforms? So I'm assuming YouTube is probably one of the most successful platforms. Yeah. And how are you growing your community was the next follow-up question. So are you doing paid ads and focused on keywords?
That is one thing I don't do. I don't do our ads. So there's some keywords we target, like it's more of a group targeting, I would say. There is some keywords, but most of the keywords are actually other companies. There are also some solution-based, like, find a ghostwriter, those kind of things. That is, other than my weekly meeting where I review the performance of all the ads with my ad team, I don't go into the nitty-gritty on that piece.
All right, so I won't go too deep into it then.
No.
So where are you guys investing the most in terms of marketing? Are you looking at the content you're driving? So obviously you are the spokesperson and you are part of the content that your marketing team is creating. And are you focusing only on yourself, or are you also looking at other platforms where you're sort of like Twitter or Reddit, where you're creating just sort of almost your company is visible, but not necessarily you? Are you guys doing that as well, or?
We haven't done a lot. Most of the money that we've invested has been in delivering the service that we deliver. So that's why I said, the piece that I haven't done enough of and that I wish I would have kind of dove into earlier was outsourcing more of the sales and marketing piece, because it really has been me. And the book that I've written and the next book I've written are part of our outreach to not just be YouTube and Google. We've started Facebook and Instagram ads. Some of that's me, some of that's content. We have monthly information, like 2-hour training sessions that we do that are pure content. There's no sales pitch at the end. And those are sometimes my team, which they do a brilliant job of, because they'll dive into what makes a good book cover. How do you know if you've had a good editor? And, how do you write your own pitches for marketing? So they do a really great job of that. And we use that in some of the marketing so that it's not just me, but going forward, that's definitely a piece that we're going to grow. And that's the exciting part, is we've gotten to be a decent sized company without doing that. So there's all this opportunity of things that we can do to continue to grow. So
yeah, I hear you. So it's really, you could see that where a company does well on its own with almost no marketing and it just has organic growth, I think it really sort of says my idea is solid. I know it can function. So that's perfect.
Yeah.
Switching it up a little bit, if you can leave yourself, your past self, a message, a voicemail, 60 seconds and saying, don't do this or do that, what would it be and why?
Don't worry about all the things, because all the things I worried about, especially last year, I had one heck of a year last year, and nothing that I was really stressed and worried about came to be as dramatic as I thought it would be. And the one thing that I didn't think was going to be a big deal ended up being the big deal. So there's no point in worrying about it, because you're not going to be worrying about the right thing.
That's so funny. Yeah, it's so true. Just take it easy and not worry. What is one trait that you feel you have that allow you to build this business? Because not everybody's going to launch their business. A lot of people won't think about starting their businesses. A lot of people sort of dabble into it. But what is one thing you feel that you've had that sort of drove you to be able to launch this business and your past businesses as well?
There's more than one trait, but I think one of my most important values that serves me in my entire life is that I always do what I say I'm going to do. So if I say this is what I'm going to do, that's what I do. So it's powerful because, if I tell somebody I'm going to be there, I'll be there. If I'm going to start a company, they know I'm going to start it, so they'll join and they'll help. So that would be the thing. But there's lots of traits: perseverance, learning to handle stress. Those are all things.
That's great. That's great. And I had a question about your book. Mm-hmm. When you were writing your book, did you personally have fear that it wasn't going to, have the impact you wanted to have? And do you feel it's achieved what you wanted it to do?
Yeah, each book has been different. It's interesting though, because I just did a YouTube video on booklaunchers.tv, which is my YouTube channel, because I have a 4th book coming out later this year. And the video was all about kind of the 5 things that surprised me as I wrote my 4th book. And the one thing I talked about in that video, and is true, is that I have still so much doubt and fear that this book, it's a big book, so it has a lot of content. And then I was afraid it's boring because there was so much content and there was so much information. But then I was also afraid there's certain sections there isn't enough information. So I have all the fears still. And I think that's normal. All our authors do, but I wanted people to know that even on my 4th book, even as somebody who's worked with more than 400 authors, I still am sitting here going, oh my gosh, what if this sucks? What if it's boring? So yes to all of the things.
Yeah, so imposter syndrome right to the end. That's really interesting. And I guess it's so true. You sort of have that for the whole time. What is one thing that you do to help you get over that? Obviously, because sometimes you probably, do I really need to write this, or should I just skim it down? What is one thing that says, okay, you know what? No, I'm going to do it exactly do you pre-plan your books? You pre-write, each section, or you just let it go in the flow?
I pre-planned this one, but it actually ended up looking very different because what I found was as I started to write certain sections, I realized, wait a minute, in order for you to be able to really use this, you need to understand this. And so I ended up that's how the book got really big. And so then I had somebody on my team go through it and they helped revise some of it. And then, editors kind of help with that too. But I'm more, they call it a pantser, that you're writing writing without the outline. I'm more of a pantser than an outliner. But part of it is I kind of figure out what the book is while I write. But I think you're better off to have an outline. You'll be more sane as a writer if you have a good outline and go from that.
Yeah, because my neuroticism would go crazy if I started to write because I would just go off on a different tangent every time. So no, I couldn't do that. I would need to have a structure. And I something that popped up when you were talking is the editors, because you're the business owner, do you feel like the editors are going to be like, yeah, this is all perfect and they're not going to, write anything or change anything? Or are they all kind of be like, no, you need to change this?
Yeah.
To get as much pushback as they give the other authors? Yeah,
that's a great question. And speaking that video, I talked about that too, because my content editor, I felt was way too nice to me. And I felt like and we had this problem with my previous book, Self-Publish and Succeed too. The content editor didn't go hard enough, right? They made some light suggestions. And so to combat that, I got the copy editor. I got one person on my team to read it. That was part 1. And she wasn't so kind, which was great. And then the other thing was the copy editor, who is external to the company. And she's ruthless. She's just notoriously ruthless. So I was like, go hard. Do not hold back. And actually, I almost cried when I first looked at the edit. I was like, oh my God, my book's terrible. But it was what I asked for. It's what it needed. So
I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But I can imagine the person giving you that feedback. It's always sort of telling your boss, you did a good job, but.
Exactly.
So that's interesting.
Yes. And that's what we found with the content editors, because they were both in-house people in both of those, in the Self-Publish and Succeed and the current book, versus the copy editor. She's an external contractor. She was not so afraid of me.
That's good. That's good. And do you have an expectation of your books to achieve a certain success because you are the business owner and you feel deep down, even though probably it's not logical to feel this, yep. But do you feel like my books need to succeed for me to show that, yes, I know what I'm doing? Or are you no, it's okay. It is what it is?
Yeah, there's a bit of that. I'd be lying if I said that there isn't always that fear of like, if my book doesn't do well, how does that reflect on my company? But that said, my definition of success is also really important. And for Self-Publish and Succeed, my definition of success was, is this book growing my company? And the answer is yes. And for this next book, it's a very similar question. You know, it's a book marketing book. And so the question is it supporting my team? Is it supporting our process? Is it growing our company? And that's how I'm defining success. But yeah, there is still a part of me that goes like, oh, if somebody looks at my Amazon ranking and it's low that day, does that make us look bad as a company? And I think, you know, sometimes I feel like it does, but then I remind myself everybody has a different definition of success. And I'm not selling all my books on Amazon. I'm selling a lot of them through ads that go to a landing page. So you're never seeing that on Amazon.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's something that you guys have to explain to the authors? Because let's say if I were to come up as a brand new author, I've never done this. My expectations be, you know, X, Y, Z. And do you guys have to sit there with them and say, no, hold on, Oliver, that's not going to be exactly what you think. This is most likely what's going to happen. Do you guys do a lot of that?
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people we have this conversation early because a lot of people are like, I have to be an Amazon bestseller. And I'm kind of like, you'll probably be an Amazon bestseller regardless, because guess how many, like, and then other people, when we weren't having that conversation, people would come to us and they'd be like, I got a bestseller flag. How many books did I sell? And we'd look it up and it'd be 28. And they'd be like, oh, is that all? I got a flag. So we started setting expectations early, not for the reason people think, but for the other reason, which is you're probably almost guaranteed, we never guarantee it, but you're probably guaranteed to get that bestseller flag. And it probably means you sold 50 books. Like,
So I never knew that. So it's not hundreds of books. I'm assuming when somebody has a best, it's like thousands of books have been sold. So
No.
do you explain how Amazon and sort of the key distributors work to the authors?
Yeah, to a point. I mean, most of our conversation revolves around, okay, what's most important? Like, what is the thing you're doing this book for? And if they say it's to be a bestseller, then the next question is why? Like, what do you think being a bestseller is going to do for you? And if it's solely like, I just want to check the list, okay, fine. Like, that's your bucket list thing, great. But most people are investing in a book in order to grow their brand, grow their business, tell a story, have impact, you know, those kind of things. And that's what we'll focus on. And in that journey, you still almost always end up with that bestseller flag. But our goal is, you know, are you getting that lead or that speaking engagement or that piece that was more important to you?
That's great. So define the goals with the author right away instead of the expectations that may be in the future.
Exactly.
I love that. So like switching it up a little bit, how do you stay focused? Because obviously you're managing a team, you're writing books, you obviously have a family. So there's a lot going on in your life. So how do you stay focused and productive?
Yeah, I think there's two big things. One is that I always plan my schedule the night before, which can be a drawback because if somebody wants to talk to me and they want me to squeeze them in, like, good luck, because my schedule's set the night before. But the other thing is I'm very present. So when I'm at work, I'm working. When I'm with my family, I'm with my family. Like, I don't check my phone. You know, my team can tell you that if they try to get a hold of me and I'm not working that day, they have to like actually text and call in order to get me because I'm not checking email, I'm not checking Slack. So those are kind of the two big things is I really try not to multitask. And I plan my day the night before so that I know what I'm doing the minute I start.
To really focus. I love that. Now, a question I like to ask everybody. If you could meet any entrepreneur for coffee and pick their brain, who would it be and why?
Probably Sarah Blakely. I'm just a huge fan of hers. I think she'd be fun. I think she'd be a fun conversation. I also think that she kind of comes across as I don't want to say flighty, but like fun and like a little bit out there. And yet at the same time, you know, she's got some business genius behind her for everything that she has created with Spanx and beyond. So yeah, that'd be my pick.
I love that. Yeah, that's true. You're the first person I think that's brought her up, so that's great.
Oh, well, great. I'm glad to be original.
That's it. What is one business book, aside from your own, that's had a really big impact on your career or your life?
Yeah, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mean, it got me into real estate in the first place. You know, it was 2001 when I read it, and I always joke with people. I'm like, my coworker told me about it. I had to write it down on a piece of paper and drive to the bookstore and buy it. Like, that's what life was like in 2001. But I bought it, and I think I read it in one weekend, and immediately I started buying real estate after reading that book. So, and without it, I wouldn't have written my first book and I wouldn't have started my first business. My first two businesses were in real estate. So yeah, it's really evolved everything I've done because it changed my mindset of what I was looking at.
Great book. Yeah, I read it too, and it really does open your eyes a lot. Where do you see yourself in 5 years and your business?
That's always a fun question because 6 years ago, I moved to Los Angeles, actually, from Canada. And then 2 years ago, I moved to Las Vegas from Los Angeles because, pandemic hit and it was no fun. And I didn't predict any of that. Like if you would have asked me on my 5-year plan at any point, none of that was on the radar. So generally speaking, I will be having fun. I'll be having an impact, and I probably still will be helping authors with book launchers. But beyond that, the location, the how, it's hard to say, but we are implementing AI. So there is an element that I do believe that AI is going to have a powerful impact. And that's part of why I don't think I can predict where I'll be in 5 years, because I see the power of its ability to take away the blank page, the automation in audiobook narration and voice over video, all those things. It's going to be really interesting to see what everybody's doing in 5 years.
Yeah, 100% I agree with you on the AI. We were just talking about it this morning. Probably in a year, a lot of people ask me on the podcast, are you using any of the AI-driven applications? And I say I tried a lot of them. They're not there yet. So they're useful, they're kind of helpful, but we spend more time working with them at this point. But I believe in a year, maybe even less, we're going to see a massive transition where AI becomes just streamlined in almost every application. So yeah, 100% agree with that. My closing question, how could people come out and reach you and connect with you?
Yeah, the best thing to do is to go to booklaunchers.com/7 steps. So 7 steps. You'll download our 7 steps to write and publish a book that is set up to sell, which is our whole philosophy. And then when you get that, you'll get my email. So you can just hit reply. You'll get some of my videos. So that's the absolute best way to get in touch with me.
That's perfect. We'll add that to the show notes. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. It was great to be here.
Business 911 is hosted and written by me, Olivier Bousset, and produced and edited by our talented podcast team. To listen to Business 911, you'll find us on all your favorite podcast apps, as well as YouTube. We hope you've enjoyed this interview and it's given you some valuable insights and helped you along your business journey. And if you have any comments or questions, please reach out to us. Thank you for joining us and listening to this episode of Business 911. Pitch Deck in 60 seconds. We want to thank our sponsors, Pitch 2.0, a fully automated pitch creation and monitoring system, so you can focus on your product and not on the deck. You'll find them at pitch2.0.com.